Hello and welcome to Landscape Photography World, the podcast for everyone passionate about landscape photography. I'm Grant Swinburne and I'll be your host on this show, talking to landscape photographers about their motivations, likes and dislikes. Have you heard that the inaugural Landscape Photography World Awards is now open for entries? Early bird entry is available now at a discounted fee until September 30, 2022. Head to landscapephotographyworldawards.com to find out all the details and how to enter. There's some amazing prizes to be won, and I'll be publishing a book and a calendar with the top images at the end of the competition, so there's plenty to look forward to. Entries close on November 30, 2022, so there's plenty of time to get your entry sorted, but if you want to get into the early birds, do it now. I'd also like to thank the judges who have agreed to work with me and be a big part of the awards. Deb Clark, Victoria Hark, Kieran Stone and William Patino. I certainly couldn't make this competition a reality without their support. This week, Krista May, an Australian travel, lifestyle, commercial and landscape photographer currently based in New Zealand, talks to me about how she decided to move there to set up her business. She wears many hats in the creative industry. She may be your go-to for weddings, elopements, brand collaborations, product photography, commercial and tourism-related projects and campaigns. Most of all, she spends every waking minute exploring this beautiful planet with a camera in hand. Adventure travel photography is her passion, and that really shows in her work. We discuss how she set up business in New Zealand's beautiful South Island, the moment she knew she wanted to become a full-time photographer, and where she sees the photography community heading. I hope you enjoy the show. Hi Krista, welcome to Landscape Photography World. How are you going?
Hi Grant, thanks for having me. I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, really good, really good. It's a nice sunny day here in Sydney, and I believe it's a bit cold over there where you are in New Zealand. Why don't you start with telling us where you are and why you're there?
Yeah, I'm in Queenstown in New Zealand in the South Island. It is currently 2 degrees, which is a bit chilly, but the sun's out, so it's okay. And I basically moved here for the landscape and the mountains. And after living in Canada for a few years, I went back to Oz for a few months, but I just miss being around big mountains. And so I just thought, where was the closest place I could go and kind of set up camp in New Zealand? Looked pretty good. And
Kosciuszko wasn't going to do it for you?
Yeah, I don't know. You always want what you can't have, right? So I was like, oh, the further away, the better. But I do miss Australia. But yeah, the mountains here are just beautiful. So now, yeah, I've been here 3 years and I love it. It's definitely my home away from home.
Fantastic. I certainly can't blame you. The landscapes there are absolutely stunning. I mean, I'm still yet to get down to the South Island, but it's very high on the list, very, very high on the list.
Yeah.
So why don't you talk a little bit about how you got started in photography and landscape photography in particular?
Cool. Yeah. I actually went to uni for photography.
Cool.
Straight out from school, I was actually like away in Cambodia, like volunteering at an orphanage with my friend for a month. And my mum rang me halfway through and she was like, okay, you've just graduated, you're away. You either need to find a full-time job when you get back or apply for uni. And I was like, oh, wow, okay, that's fair enough. And so I panicked a bit, and I always loved animals and photography. And so like my first preference was actually a Bachelor of Science to do marine biology. And my second preference was photography. And then I got home from my trip and I was meant to like, everything was like put in. And then last minute, I don't know why, I just changed my major. I changed them. Like I switched to my first preference being photography and my second being a Bachelor of Science. And I'm not sure why. I feel like there's just something in me being like, oh, I feel like you'll enjoy this more and maybe I can help animals in the future. And I'm glad I did.
Yeah, excellent.
Sure. Yeah, like, and then.
So were you doing photography in any way before you started uni, or was it just something that you wanted to do but never really had the opportunity?
Yeah, I've been taking photos pretty much my whole life. My mum said she gave me like a little shooting point when I was really young. She said about 8, I would just like take this camera around and just like do shooting points and take photos all the time. And I can't remember that as much, but I do remember buying my first secondhand camera from a from cash converters when I was about 14. And
Wow.
yeah, because I just started working. My mum was like, oh, well, you've got a job now, you can buy a camera. And I was like, oh, yeah, I could. And then I would just still put it on auto and take pictures of like insects and bugs around my house. And so I liked doing that. And I just thought, if I like that, maybe I like studying it. And so that kind of like led on to wanting to do the degree.
Nice. So talk to me a bit about the education side of it. I'm always interested in how people sort of learn their craft and so on. Do you think that gave you a really good technical grounding, or was it more a creative grounding? What did you get out of that process?
I definitely think for me it was the technical side, because it's a bit daunting, because when you start, they kind of expect you to already kind of know how to take photos. And for me, that wasn't the case. I just liked taking photos,
Yep.
but I wasn't necessarily good, and I didn't necessarily like know how. And they kind of expected you to like already know that. And I feel like for me, that was a bit daunting, but quickly I made friends who already knew, and like being in that environment, like I feel like they taught me a lot. And then my lecturers were open to like obviously like helping you start from scratch. And so I think the technical side was really good. And then getting to use like the studios with like proper lighting, and we made our own pinhole cameras, and like
Cool.
like developed our own film and stuff. So like that was really cool, just like getting back to the full basics and just like learning how it all works and light and everything like that. And that was cool. I feel like I didn't actually find my niche until a long time after. But for that, it was like super interesting, and I really liked that side of it. And I've still got like lifelong friends from there as well, so that was fun. Being around like creative people all the time is just like the nicest thing.
Yeah, fantastic. You talked a bit about the film side of things. I mean, I grew up in the film days where there wasn't any other options. You've obviously grown up mostly in the digital age. I guess, what was it like seeing that first development? You put the paper in the developer and the fixer and so on, and then you watch it dry and you see this image appear. What was that like? Seeing that coming from the digital age, where you could just look at the back of the camera and go, didn't like it, delete.
Yeah, it's so addicting, I reckon. Like you just the whole process, you're just so engaged, like waiting, like you go out, especially like when we were doing it with the pinholes, like you expose it for like 10 seconds, and in your mind you can kind of see like how it's going to look, and then you take it back, and then you're just waiting for it to expose. And then sometimes it doesn't expose as much as you wanted, or it exposes too much, and then you just want to keep doing it. And I guess that's the cool part, just being able to take something and just like using light and then creating an image is just mind-blowing, because obviously when it's digital it does it all for you automatically, but doing it in person on just like photosensitive paper is really unique.
No, I remember the first time I developed film and whatever. I was in high school at the time, and we had a dark room and everything, and larges and all the rest of those sorts of bits of kit that you needed back in the day. And I just thought it was absolutely phenomenal. And the fact that you didn't know what you were going to get until you'd actually, at least got the negative developed, and then you could kind of get an idea. But that was too small, and even when you look at it in a magnifying glass, you can tell if it's sharp or not, but you still weren't quite sure what everything was going to look like until you got it out of the fixer and on the rack drying.
Yeah, and I think because it is such a long process and so much goes into it, I feel like it's really rewarding because it takes such a long time. It takes a lot of thought, and you can't just take 10 shots of the one scene. You really have to plan everything out, and you're like, okay, this is the one. And then when it's,
you realize how important the calculations around the shutter speed and everything are.
Yep, no like guessing. It's 100%. Yeah, you're like, okay, this is what it needs to be on.
And you can bracket, but
do you still shoot film?
No, very rarely. I've still got my old Minolta on the shelf there, and I think about it occasionally, but no, it's kind of like I've been there, done that a little bit. And
That's so fair.
part of it is also, yeah, do I really want to spend the money? And when I can actually just, edit it
Yeah,
in the
point
back.
and shoot. Yeah, no, I don't
Yeah,
blame you.
I love the utility and ease of use of digital. Personally, it's
Yeah.
way easier than having to faff around with film.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I
I don't
agree.
really also I don't have a dark room, so I'd have to go that old school route of sending it off to get it developed. I probably could set one up if I was really keen, but I'm
Yeah.
not that keen.
It is cooler if you do it yourself. Like obviously it's
Oh
nice
yeah,
away and
absolutely.
getting it done, but yeah, it's nice, like I said, like doing the whole process.
Yeah, yeah. So do you do any yourself still, or?
No, I think I would love to. And I have just a disposable camera that I like take out for fun, like with friends and stuff like that, just like
Sure.
the in between moments. But yeah, I just am too busy shooting digitally that I just don't have time to shoot film. But I admire everyone who does.
Oh yeah, and I'm really fascinated by some of the people that are developing in coffee and developing in soup and all the rest of these weird and wonderful things that they're doing.
It's insane. Like yeah, it makes you be super creative, which is cool.
Absolutely, absolutely. I admire them, immensely.
Yep.
Um, I've got a question about, I guess the motivation. Do you think it's important to have a goal in your photography? And if so, what's your goal?
I think so. I feel like for me, I'm quite driven, and I think lots of creatives are, which is why we are so passionate about one thing.
Mm.
And for me, I guess my goal is like I've been working really hard to try and work commercially in the outdoor adventure lifestyle
Sure.
sort of environment. And for me, the last couple of years, I've been working really hard to like try and get in that industry, and it's been really good, and it's kind of worked out because it's amazing. I feel like I get to join my passion of landscape photography
Mm.
with an area which you can actually make a career as well. So you get to do like the best of both worlds in my scenario.
Yeah.
And I guess for me, that's my main goal. And that's why I guess NFTs come involved as well. Like you get to do your passion and also make a career out of it.
Hopefully get paid for it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's the dream.
So why landscapes? What is it about landscape and nature photography that really, lights the fire for Krista?
I think for me, it's the mission that it takes to get there as well. Like I'm super into the hiking and outdoors and camping and that sort of landscape photography. And I think for me, suffering to get to a spot makes it that much more meaningful. I like hiking for a full day, sweating 8 hours, like I like kind of like pushing myself to the limit, being like, okay, this is tough. Like I'm at like my wit's end really, and then getting to a point, and then you get to the top and it's like you forget about it all, like the sun will be setting or something, and then immediately I'll forget that I'm in so much pain or I'm sweating or whatever, and I'll whip out my camera and I'll be running around like crazy because I'm just like, this is what I want, like being remote in the outdoors, either by yourself or with friends, and just like you're the only one experiencing that moment, how it is like exactly then. And I feel like landscape's awesome because it's never really the same. And I know we have beautiful days and they look the same, but it's never really quite the same. Every sunset and every sunrise is different. And so it's cool to be in a spot and capture that, knowing that it'll never be like that again.
Do you prefer photographing alone, or do you prefer to be with people?
I actually prefer to be with people, I think. I really enjoy capturing the little moments in between. And I think because I don't have many creative friends in real life, I shoot with a lot of just my friends, and they usually just like go to the camp and they'll hang out and they'll chill, and I like capturing those moments, and then I'll just be like off by myself shooting like the surrounding moments. But I like coming back and then just hanging out with them and enjoying the moments together. I do enjoy shooting by myself as well, but I think I do prefer more with people, because sometimes it's nice just getting hyped on what you see and then them being hyped and you kind of vibe off that, and that's a nice feeling.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
What about you? Do you like shooting?
I very, very much like getting out there with other people. Even if it's only one or two, mates, you just say, hey, I'm going for a shoot tomorrow. Do you want to come? And, just those impromptu things are fantastic. That said, I equally like the solitary life in terms of, I'm really comfortable going somewhere that I've never been before and just, wandering through that space and trying to, work out what to capture and, just spend that time inside my own head trying to work out what looks good and what doesn't.
Yeah, it's nice having the time without feeling pressure of anyone with you and knowing that you have no one else to rely on or anyone else to worry about. It's just you in that moment and you just like, okay, I get to do exactly what I want to do.
yeah exactly. That said, I've met up with quite a few photographers and you tend to go and find little things and you do tend to get into that little headspace of there's an interesting comp, I'll go and do that, and you might end up being 100 yards down the beach from the people that you're with.
Yeah, especially if you're with a creative, because you both get in the headspaces and then you're just like, it's like television,
everything blocks out.
Yeah. Literally.
Yeah, but to be honest, I mean that's one of the reasons why I do photography is blocking everything else out and just having that laser-like focus on what it is that you're doing.
Yeah, I agree, and it's nice. Like I'm the same. I don't think about anything else when I'm shooting. I'm just like so in the moment and thinking about like maybe where I'm going to shoot next or my next comp, or just like enjoying it, not looking at my phone, or you're just 100% in that moment, which is nice.
Well, I look at my phone only because I use it as a remote.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Turn off every other emails.
There's nothing else going on. Mainly because once I've done the Wi-Fi to the camera, I haven't got internet access to anything else. So there's nothing coming at me going, hey, look at me, so there are no distractions. You can just concentrate on it. It's I find it a really good switch off in terms of the rest of the world, when I can do that, and the reason I use my phone is largely because it's a really handy remote. I can control every setting except the main sort of mode switches, everything else is controllable off the phone. So it just makes it so much more convenient than not.
I agree. I use my phone for the same reason. It is super handy. That's why I like shooting in the mountains as well, because usually you don't have service.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like my phone is literally my camera tool, and that's all it is today, which is nice.
Yeah. No, it's nice to switch off from the rest of the world, I think.
Yeah.
When you go into the field, do you have a concept of what it is that you're after before you go? And I want to talk a little bit about the planning side of things and how you sort of structure a trip. You obviously, if you're hiking out into the backcountry in New Zealand, it's it takes a little bit of prep. You got to have the right gear, just to keep yourself alive. But aside from that, are you going in thinking, okay, well, I want to go here because there's this particular view or lake or mountain or whatever that I'm after, or are you responding to the landscape more when you get out there?
I am definitely a planner. I plan, like when I do road trips, I definitely plan the main spots I want to shoot at or the main hikes I want to go on, because I know there is a specific comp I want to shoot, or just a specific landscape that looks beautiful to me. And I just think, oh, this would be a really beautiful spot to go and find my own comp there. But I definitely am a big planner. I definitely suss out a lot of hikes before I do them. I don't do many that are just on the whim. But I guess out of me and all my friends stuff, I am the planner. So I guess I do organize everything. So that's why I already know what I'm going to shoot. But yeah, it is nice going on the random ones where I haven't looked up anything. And that's nice because it gets it's a nice surprise. And for me, who is quite organized, it's kind of nice to be like thrown off your game a little bit and just have to think on the spot. But yeah, I do plan a lot, and I do specifically go to places for certain hikes or places. And I do love shooting when there's lakes and just certain viewpoints where I just know is going to be like a nice composition for either sunrise or sunset or an astro spot.
Yeah. Are you looking to try and make something that's unique or just distinctive in the genre?
Definitely something unique. Obviously, this is why I feel like I have a style, but it's not super narrowed down, because I feel like I'm always changing it to do something different and shoot a little bit differently and think a little bit differently. Because if I do see a beautiful spot that people have shot at, I am going there, but not to shoot the same image, trying to go there just to get a new perspective or see what I can do differently. Or going somewhere where I know people haven't shot much, and looking on topo maps and stuff like that, just so I can find a new place and a new style specific to me.
Yeah. How would you describe your style to somebody that hasn't seen your work?
I would say it is definitely on the more like moody landscape adventure sort of style, because a lot of my things are captured on the go. There's not many times where I do go to the one spot and set up my tripod and shoot from there. I am very much like handheld, on the go, kind of moving all the time, and I would say that's definitely the way I like to shoot. But yeah, more like the moody, cloudy mountaintops.
Yeah, nice. And how do you see that style developing? You mentioned that, you're trying to try different things. What do you do, I guess, to add to that kit bag of ideas and so forth that you're trying to put together?
For me, right now, I'm actually trying to get more into astro, because I feel like that is such a niche in itself, and I admire everyone who is incredible at it, because they've worked so hard on perfecting their skills to be able to take these incredible photos. And so for me, I feel like that's the next step, like wanting to shoot landscapes and mountains, but also kind of push myself and learn a new skill, because I do really feel like astrophotography is a separate skill, just like different niches of photography, like street photography, it's a niche.
It's definitely got its own unique way of doing things, and its own set of rules that don't apply sort of during the day or during sunrise, sunset,
Exactly. And it's nice to actually be in, like, because that's the one time I feel like you do stay in the one spot and kind of really plan your composite and what you're going to shoot, rather than just like kind of on the go, which is so different to the style I shoot now. So now it's nice to do something different in that aspect.
Yeah. How would you define success in your photography?
That's a great question.
That's why I ask it.
Yeah. It's hard to measure success by money and jobs, but I feel like for me, getting paid to shoot commercially is something I've been working really hard for. So I feel like that's something I've been striving for a long time. So for me, that counts towards some of my success. Like, I think 5 years ago, me looking at me now would be so impressed. But me being in this current situation now, I'm always like striving for more. And I'm so happy with where I've gotten, but it just like keeps pushing me for wanting to do more and get more jobs commercially. But it's also success in your style. Like, I look at my Instagram even, which is like a good portfolio, and I was looking at it last night actually, and I scrolled back to my photos from 2017, and I was like, wow, even in just a few years I've just grown, and my style has really come to, and my photos are what I think now are like, I'm really happy with where they are, and that's success. Like, always seeing growth, I think, is a good thing.
Yeah, totally. And I think it's something that's really important as a photographer to do, is to go back and measure yourself, not against the people that inspire you necessarily. Use them to inspire you, yes.
Yeah.
And help you grow. But to look back at your own work and say, okay, that was where I was 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, whatever. And here I am now. And if you can see a very distinct difference between what you were doing, 3 or 4 years ago and now, then that growth, is something that you can, be proud of. Now, if they're worse, I don't know what you do.
Yeah, exactly. If they're worse, I don't know. Yeah, do you feel like you still look back on your photos now and you're constantly doing that?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I'm always looking back. Even doing re-edits of things. I did one earlier this year where I went back, I think it was 2014 or something, and it was one of my very first extra long exposures. It was about 7 or 8 minutes exposure. It was down at Little Bay. And I decided to do a re-edit of it and just learn what I knew about processing back in 2014 and what I know now, vastly different, and my techniques are very different. So it was really interesting to sort of go back into one of those early, there was nothing wrong with the composition, there was nothing wrong with the exposure or anything. It was, okay, what can I do with this image now? And then compare the two end results and see how far the processing side of things had come, if nothing else.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying it was the best photo in the world, but it was just interesting to go dive back that far into the archive and pull something back and have a redo of it. And for me, I think that's an important exercise to do, to look at that difference between where you were back in the day to where you are now.
Definitely. You should post it. I want to see.
I think I did. It was a few months ago, but I'll have to dig it out. I'll send you a link to it if I can find it.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't know. I gotta be honest. I don't know if the original was posted back in the day. It might be. I'd have to scroll a long way back into the Instagram archive to see whether or not I might not have even left it there, because I might have gone, I'm a bit embarrassed about that one.
Oh yeah, I've definitely deleted a few along the years.
Yeah. But I guess that growth for me is one of the important things, and it's also one of the things that drives me to, look at my style, look at what I've done in the past, and, do something different, do something experimental with it as well, turn the sky green or whatever, just to see what it looks like,
Yeah, I agree. And I think the editing is one of the major things that actually changes along the years, rather than like, yes, I feel like your shooting style changes, but I think it is the way you edit and the way you see things. And now even like when I shoot, I'll be like, oh, this is what I could do to it when I get home.
Yeah.
And even I feel like I didn't think like that before. And obviously, so it'd be cool like to go back to a photo where I never thought like that and actually.
Well, I was going to ask, does how you shoot influence how you process, or how you process influence how you shoot?
I think how I process influences how I shoot, because I am thinking about the final version when I'm taking the photo. I'm thinking, oh, I'll do this to it, or I could do this to it, or I think this will look good if I did this. And then some photos, I don't think about that. Some photos are just like on the go, where I'm like, oh, that's a beautiful shot, just like as is. But the ones I really plan out, I think I do already have a vision in my head of what I want it to look like. And then I'll go specifically shooting, trying to get that.
Yeah. So how you're going to process it before you've even pressed the shutter.
Yeah. But then sometimes it throws you off if you get home and you process it like you thought you wanted to, and you're just like, no, it doesn't work. That's when it throws us.
I've had a lot of those.
Oh yeah. And then you just have to go back to square one, and you have to get that image out of your head and be like, okay, looking at it with fresh eyes, we're going to start again, get the idea out of your head and just do it what feels good.
Yeah. I want to talk to you a bit about I guess, the lifestyle choice. You said you're trying to get some more commercial work, and you're doing that part-time, as I understand it. So how do you balance, the rest of your life with your photography life?
It is very hard. I am at a stage in my career where I am trying to be full-time photography, and I think that's the hardest part because I also work part-time at a bungee jump company.
Okay, yep.
And in tourism, and that's really fun, and that kind of helps just like pay for all my bills and expenses every
Sure.
week. That's just like solid income that I know is okay, I can afford to live here, that's all I need. And then photography is obviously extra, and so right now I am doing it part-time, and I do feel like I'm at the stage where I'm so close to hopefully being full-time commercial, but I think I'm still in the bit of the hustling phase to get over the hump to leave my part-time job, but it's a hard one. But I have been trying to take specific days off because I haven't had many in the last few months. So yeah, I've been trying to actually make a good work-life balance, because I have been finding every day I do have spare spending time on it, which is a great thing, because like I'm really driven to make it work. But I also think, like everyone knows, like burnout, it's a real thing, and you need to still have time where you don't shoot, and then you can just hang out and enjoy life and not be thinking about work, because photography, it's my love, my passion, and I want to get paid to do it as a career, but also it's nice to just enjoy life without the camera sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you talk about the commercial work, talk to me a little bit about how you're structuring that in terms of, what sort of work you're chasing. Are you chasing local? Are you chasing, around the country a little bit, or, just how do you, I guess, structure your business side of things a little bit?
Yeah, I definitely try and approach companies and businesses locally, because I do feel lucky to be able to live in New Zealand, and I really want to give back to that. Working with local brands is high on the list, and I think they also appreciate that. Working with I call myself a local now, a local as well, someone that like appreciates New Zealand, and I think that works well. But yeah, I definitely try and reach out to companies who I admire as well. I only work with companies who morally fit with my morals, if that makes sense. And definitely in the outdoor adventure lifestyle, like got a few gigs with Keen Footwear, Icebreaker, a few local and companies, and things like that. And definitely try and hit up the tourism places as well, because I know working with them is awesome, and it's so cool to be able to like capture the New Zealand landscapes in that aspect. So yeah, definitely try and shoot locally first, and then branch out to some other bigger brands elsewhere in the world.
Yeah, I've spoken to several photographers that have either gone full-time or part-time professional, and one of the things almost universally they're trying to work through the struggle of dealing with the brief and the timeframes. How do you do that?
Yeah, I've been quite lucky with most of mine. My working at the bungee jump company, they have been really good to me in the way that they understand that I'm not going to be there forever, and they're really helping me with my business outside of that. And when I do ask, if a company gets back to me being like, oh, I need a shoot next week on the weekend and I'm working, they are very good with letting me have the weekend off, or letting me change days so I can accommodate that. And so for me, that's been really lucky. And I think without that, I would have struggled the same thing with the briefs and stuff like that, because sometimes they do want it pretty ASAP. And especially if you're working with an outdoor brand, like you do usually have to go on a hike or somewhere adventurous to make that happen. It's not a quick.
Yeah, so you can't just pull the car up, step out of the car park and go click. Yeah.
Exactly. There is a little bit of admin to it. And also weather sometimes is.
Yeah, well, I'm on a sunny day and you've got a month of rain forecast.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes it works for what you're shooting, and then sometimes it definitely doesn't. But yeah, I think having my other job being really considerate of my photography business has been super helpful. And without that, yeah, I wouldn't be where I am really. So
Sure. Do you run workshops at all, or are you just sort of doing those sort of commercial shoots?
I want to run workshops. That's my next goal, I would say, is running outdoor adventure workshops. And I have been looking into it more. And it's definitely something on the agenda and something I've talked about with another photographer who I'd be really keen to do it with. But there is a lot of admin that I didn't consider after talking to a few like people in New Zealand who do workshops here.
Yeah.
The DOC, the Department of Conservation, they have a lot of rules, which is fair enough because they have to protect their land and whatnot.
Yeah.
And so I'm in the midst of trying to sort out those little niggly details and see how feasible it's actually going to be. But I would love to. That's my next goal, I would say, is doing workshops.
One of the key things that a lot of professionals or people that want to become professionals, they struggle with is how to price their work. How do you go about that? What do you have a process, or do you stick a finger in the air and say, yeah, it'll be that, you know?
I also struggle.
Everyone does.
Yeah, I think that's the hardest thing. Honestly, even when you research, roughly how much does a commercial photographer charge, for example, at the end, it always says, but you can charge whatever you want. And that is so off-putting because I do kind of wish there was a standard rate for everything. So I could just be like, okay, this is what I charge for weddings. This is what I charge for commercial. This is what I charge for tourism. But it so isn't. And I have struggled a long time. And I feel like what I found the easiest was actually talking to other photographers who were already in the industry that I want to be in and already successful and trying to get like a bit of a vibe off them without like obviously being like, tell me how much you earn, but just like talking to them and getting a gauge of like a rough ballpark of what they.
Yeah. I mean, a good place to start is an hourly rate, you know, and, you know, make that your base rate. And then if there's extras on top, you know, well, you want drone photography, all right, well, that'll cost you a bit more, or you want whatever, you know, that's on over and above the base rate. So I mean, that's how I sort of look at structuring my stuff at the moment is, you know, there's a base rate that I'm not willing to go below. I will discount. That's the hardest part, is that clients don't value photography. You know, they kind of say, well, all you're doing is going out and pushing a button, isn't it? Yeah, well, yes, and there's this and this. And once you actually explain some of what's behind it, the client, you know, starts to open their eyes. Doesn't necessarily mean they open their wallets, though, you know.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah, do you feel like you still struggle with prices, or is it
absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. And
you know that, you know, you're losing jobs because you've probably priced yourself out of them, you know, but you kind of also go, well, maybe they're not the right type of client. You know, it is hard to gauge how to price certain work, you know. But as I say, I usually start with that hourly rate. And the hourly rate isn't for the shoot; it's for the shoot and the processing.
Yeah, 100%.
So, you know, it's an end-to-end price, and, you know, that could be, you know, I could bundle that up into a daily rate, or I could bundle it up into, you know, a package deal with a bit of a discount if it's something that, you know, I really want to do, but they haven't quite got the budget for what I want to do for them, you know.
Yep. Yep, I agree. I think it's a constant struggle, and I think it's hard because it's the age-old thing of people working for free because they want experience, and then once you get the experience, you want to start charging, but then there's a cycle of new photographers coming in wanting to work for free, and so then the clients don't want to pay you once you're experienced, and it's just a vicious cycle.
Yep. I don't think it'll ever end. And to be honest, I think it's probably been
that way for a long time unless you are well known and you're doing. I mean, the guys that make the biggest money are the fashion guys, that are shooting for Vogue and all the rest of that sort of thing,
Yeah.
But that's not me.
Oh no, that's not me either. Yeah, I'll stick to my mountains.
Yeah, it's not my kind of photography at all.
Yeah, no, I'm on the same page.
So you chose to move to New Zealand because that was where you wanted to shoot. So obviously now where you live influences how you shoot. Do you think, I mean, it influences what you shoot, obviously. Do you think that influence has been good for your photography? Or, I mean, sounds like you're pretty settled there and pretty happy.
Yeah, definitely. I think when I was finished uni in Australia, I went through a stage of what everyone does after they finish studying, is kind of never wanting to shoot again, because it is like exhausting 3 years of just like constantly thinking and shooting, and I just wanted a break. And so everything around my hometown wasn't really inspiring me much, and so I ended up moving to Canada not long after for a working holiday. And I was like, obviously I'll take my camera and we'll just see how it goes. And within maybe like 2 weeks of getting there, I just had this like new passion again for it. Because I'd never seen landscapes like that before, being from Australia and being from Brisbane. I'd never really experienced anything like that before, and I'd never really been to many countries outside Australia, and I was just blown away. And so I think that kind of ignited something for landscapes, and that's where I was first like, okay, this is what I love shooting. Because after uni I wasn't really sure what I wanted to shoot or the path I wanted to go down, like being a wedding photographer or commercial. Like I didn't quite figure it out after uni, and so I just started shooting for fun, and landscapes is just what gave me fun. And I wasn't doing any jobs, I was just shooting for me, and that was the best thing. And then my visa ran up after 2 years, and the same thing, I went back to Oz, and it's just a little bit flat.
Yep.
And then I just came here, and now I just love it. And so it's definitely influenced what I like shooting, and I definitely go on holidays to specific places because I want to be around places that I want to shoot.
Yeah, no, can't say I blame you. For people that don't know the area, you're in Queenstown. So, how would you describe that to somebody that's never been?
It is surrounded by huge mountains everywhere you look, pretty much 360-degree view of mountains. And Queenstown is on the third biggest lake in New Zealand. So the lake is massive. So it's just a stunning blue lake because it's glacial fed and
water,
glacial till. Yeah, exactly. So it's just this vibrant blue and surrounded by massive peaks that just go straight into the water, basically.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Have you got a favorite spot nearby or anywhere in the world? Actually, it doesn't have to be nearby. That I guess when I say favorite spot, somewhere that you keep getting drawn back to, that you've just got to shoot again and again.
I definitely think the Remarkables, which is the big mountain range that is right here in Queenstown, which is a ski field, but it's one of the only mountains that actually face north to south, which is pretty cool. One of three, I'm pretty sure, and it's amazing. It's so beautiful, and I can see it from I can see it right now from my balcony, and so I'm just always staring at it, and I always see it in different lights. Every time I get home, I just like want to shoot it. And even being up there, it's a new landscape. Being in the actual mountains, and like I've summited the very peak of it with my friend a couple of years ago, which was awesome. So I've pretty much been all around, up and down, shooting the whole thing. But I'm still finding new spots to shoot, which is so cool, and new composites. And every time I'm like, this mountain just has so much to give.
When you're out and about, I guess hiking, I was talking to another New Zealand photographer who likes to get into the backcountry, Laren Ray, a little while ago. We talked a little bit about the gear and how you pack for that sort of thing. what are you doing to trim down on your photography gear, and what are you doing to make sure, obviously, that your survival is looked after as well?
Oh, you just carry a really heavy bag. No, there is definitely, it depends on the hike. I think I definitely suss out how big the hike is going to be. And if it's going to be a quite extreme one, I definitely try and take maximum 2 lenses, just to kind of cut down on that. Always a tripod, 100%.
Yep.
And yeah, making sure I get my sleeping bag, my mat. And being in New Zealand, honestly, it is like 4 seasons in one day, especially being in mountains. I'm always like puffer, raincoat, beanie, gloves, like always being prepared. Even in summer, I'll take those sorts of things.
Yeah.
So yeah, for the bigger ones, I'll definitely maximum take 2 lenses, but for the smaller ones, I'll probably take 3 just to get the full range. It's just so hard.
So which I guess it depends a little bit on where you're going, but which 2 do you normally choose? What do you go to?
My OG used to be my 15 to 30. That used to be my baby that I took everywhere. And now I've slowly gone into the other end, and my favorite is probably my 70 to 200 at the moment. Yep. And then I'll always take that one and my 24 to 105, because I think the 24 to 105, I can still shoot astro, but I've still got that middle range of like the adventure sort of on the go zoom that I need. So yeah, they're my go-to at the moment, because especially the zoom when you're in the mountains and you can just see the glow on the alpen glow on the peaks. I just love capturing like the really fine details of that. So yeah, that's my new favorite.
Excellent. What's your most memorable experience out in photography?
I think it would be towards the end of my time in Canada. I feel that's when I really started to get good, I would say.
Yeah.
And where my landscape photography was kind of hitting a point where I was like, okay, wow, I'm definitely seeing a change and like professionalism come into it as well. Something where I could see like, oh, you know, like these are good enough to like be printed or along those lines. And I think the last road trip I did was through the Rockies with my friend, and we hit all like the big hotspots of the mountains of like Moraine Lake, Malign Lake, Lake Louise, all those main spots where I've seen thousands of photos before. And for me, being able to capture them myself and be impressed by my own photos, I think was my turning point, where I was like, okay, this is cool to actually see the progression. And then from there is just like where it kind of headed off, basically.
Nice. Have you had any horror stories?
Yeah. I had one where it's 100% my fault, but me and my friend did this massive hike, and it was still to this day the hardest hike I've ever done. I got to a point where I didn't think I was going to finish, and I've never not finished a hike. I had a bit of a mental breakdown, bit of a crying session. I was definitely at my peak of no return, and I was thinking about going down, and last minute I was like, okay, just stick it out. You're 3/4 of the way there, like just finish it. And we got to the top, and then we just kind of had a break, and we were thinking about where to camp. So we just kind of took our cameras, left all our bags at the top, and went exploring. And we went like pretty far, and I was already wrecked. And so we got to a point where we found flat ground, and me and my friend, who's also a photographer, was like, okay, we'll stay here. And I was like, okay, let's leave our cameras here and then we'll go get our bags and then come back. And he was like, okay. And so we both just left our cameras on this ground on the flat spot in the middle of the mountains, and had to walk maybe back 15 minutes, maybe 15, 20 minutes to get our bags and bring them back. And we got lost and couldn't find them for maybe like an hour and a half. We were looking for them and searching, and I was so exhausted. I wasn't making any rational decisions, and I just can't believe I was like, oh, let's leave our cameras on the ground in the bush. And we did. And
were they in bags, or was it just
no, they were just straight up camera on ground, and so they're black as well. And obviously super hard to see, and we were panicking. I was like, this is so much gear to just leave behind. And so yeah, we were running around like, oh, it was horrible. The feeling of the thought of nearly losing it was horrible, especially after like spending a grueling amount of time getting up there and then not being able to shoot. Everything was just so daunting, and we finally found them, and I think I cried because I was just so overwhelmed with so many emotions. And then ever since then, I'm like, I'm never leaving anything ever again. Everything is staying on my body at all times.
Wow, that's amazing. I mean, it's amazing to me making that decision. That's just something I couldn't do. It's like,
yeah,
and it doesn't matter that there's nobody around. That wouldn't be first and foremost in the mind. But it's just like, no. Yeah. Even if I don't have a strap for the camera, it's in my hand. It's not going anywhere.
I think my thought was like, oh, we'll definitely sleep here tonight, and no one's around, so we'll definitely be back here. And yeah, I was just exhausted. I wasn't making any rational decisions. And the worst part was, because it was my decision, I was thinking, oh God, I'm going to have to buy 2 new cameras for me and my friend because it's my fault.
Oh, wow. What's the practice of photography taught you about the world? Don't leave your camera on top of
oh. Yeah, don't make silly decisions when you're dehydrated. No. Sorry, can you repeat that?
Sure. What's the practice of photography taught you about the world?
I feel like it's taught me that, and this is probably super cliche to say, but I feel like it's cliche because it's true. It is honestly mental. Like the fact that we get to enjoy this planet as is just mind-blowing. Just for free, especially being in a country. I feel so lucky being like Australian as well. Being in countries where you are super free to kind of do what you want and go where you want and shoot what you want. I'm constantly blown away that I just get to live in the mountains and shoot these sorts of things. And it really does give you appreciation for life. I just think I get to do this every single day. I get to enjoy this every single day. And I feel like some people in the world don't get to do that. And so I think you really gotta remember that sometimes, especially when life seems a little bit hard, which it is, and it's all relative and valid. But I think sometimes I feel like just knowing that you get to enjoy it is cool. You know, planet Earth is amazing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So many unique places which are mind-blowing that don't even look like they're real.
Yeah. So how long do you take? You mentioned you're a planner. How many hours would you spend planning, or days or weeks planning a shoot?
A long time. Yeah, I think if it's just a shoot, I definitely like a good day or two. If I'm camping somewhere, if I'm going into the mountains, I'll definitely a day or two plan kind of like the gist of getting there, if there's anything I want to see along the way, what I need when I get there, things like that. But for a road trip, like I've done a road trip around the South Island a couple times, and yeah, that took a couple weeks.
Yeah.
I am constantly thinking of new spots, and then it never stops. You see a new spot and then you're like, add it to the list. And that's why I've done 3 road trips now, because I can't see everything on one trip.
That's right. Well, it's one of the reasons why I bought myself a motorhome, is so that I can just pull up, get out and go and take shots where I want, when I want, rather than having to plan a 3 or 4 hour drive to get to somewhere.
That's the best.
And find accommodation and all the rest of that, you know.
Yeah. What size motorhome do you have? How big?
It's just for myself and my wife, but it's it doesn't arrive until November. So
it's on order.
Yeah, it's on order. Ordered it last November.
Oh wow!
Apparently, it's set for the October build, so hopefully it'll be being built soon.
Oh my God, that's going to be so amazing. Where's going to be the first place you go?
Probably the South Coast, down the Sapphire Coast. Love it down there. I think the first big trip though, we're starting to plan now, and you know, it's probably 2 months before I get the van, but we're already talking about doing a month or 2 down in Tassie.
Oh my
So
God,
just
beautiful.
sort of wandering around, parking up, doing what we want to do, and yeah.
Have you been to Tassie?
Yeah, only ever spent a week there. Did a part lap of it. Cradle Mountain. All the
All the hot spots, yeah.
usual high spots. As you try to cram everything into a week.
Yeah, yeah.
But the reason why I've done it is because I want to take that time and have the leisure of being able to stay at a place for a couple of days so that I get the conditions that I want, or and if I don't, well, I'll drive somewhere else, and park up there.
Exactly. I think motorhome is the way to go 100%. I have a camper van as well here, and it's my best friend. It's just so convenient, just like setting up shop where and when you want, and just like going on your own terms. Like you said, you guys are going to have the best time.
Yeah. I'm so looking forward to it. Just can't wait. But anyway, it's that's in the future.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what you get from your trip.
Yeah, same here. What sort of things are you doing in the field that might be different to others? You mentioned that you do a lot of handheld shooting, but you also take the tripod. Obviously, if you're doing astro, tripod's a must, but
yeah.
Talk to me a bit about your handheld shooting style and what you're doing actually in the field.
Yeah, I like the because I do a lot of alpine work as well, and a little bit of mountaineering and stuff. I like doing the on the go natural shots, the ones where people are walking or things like that. And I like just capturing it as is. I don't like telling my friends to go back to that spot and then walk up again. I like just in the moment taking it. So I have that the camera clip, and I'm immediately just like, and if I don't get it, I'll kind of like wait for another spot where maybe I could get that again. But I like it being all natural, and I think that's when I'm out shooting in the mountains, that's what it is, and that's what I like the most. It's not planned.
Yeah.
Which is good. And then obviously I use a tripod, for sunrise and sunset to get those early morning glows. My hands aren't still enough for that.
Yeah, no, fair enough. I guess you've got your shots and you come back home. Are you straight into processing, or do you leave things to ferment for a little while before you get into it?
Depends how exhausted I am, but if not, I am pretty quick to want to put them on my laptop. Especially my go-to is I'll go to my favorite 3 and I'll edit those pretty quickly.
Yep.
I think because I have my favorite ones are usually the ones that I've thought about the most, and so I've been thinking about it for ages in my head, and so I'm really excited to try and get that going straight away. And then the rest I'll leave for ages and then I'll come back to them.
So what are you doing in terms of processing? Are you trying to go for that naturalistic sort of minimal editing, or are you right into it, 25 layers and luminosity masks and all the rest of that sort of thing?
No, mine's pretty natural. I do like going for the natural sort of vibes, and especially if you like being in the landscapes, I'm going there shooting at golden hour because I want that natural look. And so I'm very much using Lightroom for majority of things, and I only use Photoshop if I do get a bit bored where I'm like, okay, I want to go extreme or test what I can do with the image. But I would say 95% of the time is just basic edits, just in Lightroom, just trying to get that natural sort of vibe, or just kind of how I saw it on the day, because obviously shooting in RAW, you do need to do those basic adjustments to get it to look
well, you gotta sort your contrast out, if nothing else.
Oh my god, otherwise it's just flat, and that's not what it looks like in real life.
No, that's right.
What about you?
I tend to shoot somewhere between 3 and 5 exposures bracketed, because I'm mostly doing sunrise, sunset, seascaping. Mostly. It's a little bit different if I'm in a forest doing a waterfall or something like that. But I still might bracket a bit depending on what as in a forest scene, you can get quite a high dynamic range. You get some really bright highlights and really dark shadows. And for me, I find that bracketing and using masking I do everything exclusively in Photoshop. I don't use Lightroom at all. Simply because my processing style really dictates a little bit about how I shoot. And so I shoot knowing that I'm going to be using luminosity masks and whatever to do what I want to do, the idea for me is to give that impression and feeling of what I felt while I was standing there watching the sun come up.
Exactly. And especially for sunrise, sunset, you really do need to bracket. Otherwise you just don't get everything.
You either end up with blown highlights or such grain in the shadows that it just looks disgusting. So no, I'm not a high ISO shooter either. I tend to I will do it for certain things, but I tend to not like going much above about 800 ISO. That's about as high as I'll go, unless I'm shooting Astro. Different game. But
I agree.
No, it's for me. It's really about just managing the light. One of the reasons why I did it, I mean, to be honest, one of the reasons why I started shooting that way was sort of budgetary. I looked at buying grad filters and all the rest of that sort of thing, and thought, well, hang on a sec. There's a way I can do that without having to spend lots of money, and I have I have 4 filters: a CPL. An ND8, an ND64, and ND1000. So 10 stop, so 10 stop, 6 stop, and 3 stop. And I use them or a combination of those to get what I want. If I'm going really long, I mean, sometimes some of the shooting that I do will be no filter at all, like the nautical twilight stuff that I do, where you're doing like a 7 or 8 minute exposure. Well before the sun's come up. It's really dark. There's no filters, but you've got to have the shutter open and I like that, and the processing of that's very different, because it's not about bracketing, but it's about again managing the highlights and the shadows, but you've got a very different image, and I like that, because you don't get a lot of opportunity to shoot like that. It's a very small window of time that you've got, and you never really know what you're going to get until you've closed the shutter and the things appeared on the back of the camera, and you kind of go, well, just wasted 7 minutes, or fantastic, that looks good.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes 7 minutes is a long time when in that time. So if you do kind of don't get exactly what you want, you kind of miss the window for the next one. So it's
that's exactly it. That's the challenge of that sort of shooting. So, but processing wise, it's usually probably about 10-15 layers of bits and pieces. And depends on what I'm doing. I might chuck a vignette, which is a couple of layers, because with vignetting, I do that manually. I don't just use a radial gradient. I actually brush in. So I have a layer that is for darkening and a layer for brightening, and I basically brush in what I want lighter and so it's a weird kind of dodging and burning.
Awesome though.
But it's just something it's a bit different.
And I feel like that's unique to your style as well, which is good, not just putting like the normal gradient on.
Well, as I say, it's just something that I've preferred over the years. It's easy to do, and it it adds a couple of layers, but who cares,
it doesn't matter.
So when you print your work, are you printing at home, or are you using a service?
Using a service. I did have a company in Australia on the Gold Coast I was using, but now I've been here so long, I'm currently in the midst of making a new print store and using a local NZ company, which is good. And then getting printed here, and I like being able to see it before it goes out to my customers. I hate the idea of not being able to see it myself, because I want it to be perfect, obviously, like everyone else. Exactly that. And they send you pictures and stuff, but I'm like, it's not the same as actually seeing it in real life. So
no, the screen and the print are two different things. So I guess in that, how many iterations would you go? Do you do many test prints before, or are you
I would do a few test prints before, because I'll have like I won't have all my images on my print store. It's just the certain ones I want. So I'll do a few test prints of those ones and get those down pat. And then I'll know exactly how it's going to look every time when I print it. And then if I put a new one on my print store, I'll do the same thing. I'll do a few tests on either side just to see what it's going to look like. And then have that specific file saved for that specific printer, I guess.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Cool. Have you ever hit a creative wall?
Oh yeah. Big time. I feel like it's nearly impossible not to hit creative walls. I feel like sometimes you just get to a point where you feel like you don't have the energy or the drive to shoot anything. I've definitely gone through a few stages of that personally, just not wanting to take my camera out or just not finding anything super interesting. But
yeah,
I think it doesn't last long, but I feel like the longer it lasts, the more you are keen to get back into it once you do find something that brings back that passion, I guess. I feel like for me, I'll try to go on a hike or something like that, just to, see the golden hour time and be like, okay, yeah, I want to shoot, do something that makes me want to have my camera on me.
Yeah. How do you kickstart it? I mean, going on the hike's not a bad way of doing it, I guess. Is there anything else that you do to sort of kickstart your creativity?
I think definitely looking at other people's Instagrams and stuff like that. I would say Instagram is a great platform for inspiration. I definitely follow, I'm sure, same as you, so many photographers. My feed is just photographers basically. And I think that helps as well, seeing them, especially people you admire, getting out to shoot. I think that like makes you want to push yourself as well, because you're like, okay, they're out shooting. I want to be out shooting, like if they're in New Zealand and they've found a cool place where I haven't seen before, I'm like, oh, that's really unique. Like I want to go shoot there, or like I want to find a new spot. Or I think definitely using other people or other creatives can definitely help get you out of it.
Yeah. No, definitely. What do you see as the biggest challenge facing photographers right now?
The underappreciation that clients put on creatives, I would say, is really hard. I think now, especially like working hard to pitch companies that I want to work for, it is really disheartening when people even contact you being like, hey, do you want to do this? And then they're like, yeah, I'll send you products. And you're like, I can't pay my bills on products. I don't want products. You need to pay me. And I think that's
products are better than exposure.
Well, yeah, exactly. But I think it's still, everything takes like so much time.
I know what you mean.
It's the time is the money thing. Yeah. I think that's the hardest thing for me. And yeah, like you said, I don't know if it's ever going to change, but we'll see.
Where do you see the future of photography going?
I feel like NFTs.
Okay.
I don't know. I think that's one aspect, definitely NFTs. I think it's cool. It's a new platform where like photographers can be considered artists, which I think is really cool. And I feel like it gives small creatives like myself a chance to be seen, and a new aspect, like we said, to like make a career or things like that. But I also think it's one of the things that you need the most, because we do have phones and stuff that can take great photos. Phones are amazing, but you still need a photographer, and I think that's where we come in handy. And I think that's a good thing. Everyone's like, oh yeah, no, photography is dead. It's not. I don't think, like, phones.
Photography's been called dead, I think, for the pretty much every year for
every year. Yeah.
Every year I've ever been involved in it.
I think if anything, showing that phones can take great photos, it's proven that not everyone can take a great photo. Like, yes, your phone can do it, but if me and another random person take a photo on the same phone, mine is probably going to be better. And I think that's where the skills and experience and the eye come into hand. And so like, I do think, if anything, maybe companies are hopefully starting to see that it is important to actually use legit photographers rather than people with a phone.
Do you see AI as being a threat or an advantage to photographers?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a tricky one.
Because I mean, if I was a client and I wanted my product, I could, go to one of the ones where you put in the words and then you can pretty much have it generate what you want to a certain degree, To
a certain degree, but yeah, it is pretty spot on. I think it is a little bit of a threat, I guess, but nothing is quite like having an actual photo. And I still feel like, even though they look super real, I think if they were going for the natural vibe, I think photos will still be on top. But I definitely think there's going to be some competition for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I'm interested in seeing where it's going, but for me, I still think, that creative pursuit of a human, doing their thing as opposed to a machine, running an algorithm, just, I don't think there's anything to compare,
Yeah.
Not yet, anyway.
Not yet. Yeah. Ask me again in 10 years.
Yeah, that's it. What do you like to do when you're not out shooting?
I am pretty adventurous as is. So I'm really into my outdoor sports. Like I do a lot of rock climbing and I go canyoning and stuff, being Queenstown's just the adventure capital of New Zealand. So I'm just always out and about. But yeah, kayaking, swimming, canyoning, rock climbing, that's pretty much what I like doing. I like being outside.
Yeah, don't we all?
I know, right? Yeah, it's just, especially with summer coming around, I'm so excited just to spend days in the sun. I'm keen for it. Anything outdoors, I'm keen.
What tips would you give to an 8-year-old Krista that has picked up a camera for the first time?
I would probably say, don't listen to people who tell you that you're not going to make it. Because I feel like when you decide to go down a creative path, lots of people think that you'll never find a job, or, it's not a real job, and all these negative thoughts that people would never say to a lawyer or something in that aspect. And I just think that really got to me when I was younger, and pushing past that's been hard, like I'm sure with everyone else. And so I'm just like, don't listen to them. And I feel like, if anything, like it's made me be like, want to prove them wrong. But yeah, it's still hard to get past people constantly telling you that you're never going to make it as a photographer or in the creative industry, or it's saturated or blah blah. You just got to stick to your guns, do what you love doing, and if you love doing it, you make it work.
Fantastic and great advice. I think we all have inspirational and aspirational photographers. Is there anyone that you think I should be talking to?
I feel like you may have already talked to a few of the people that I would recommend. I was going to say Laren for sure. Him in astrophotography is amazing. Rach Stewart.
Yep.
Have you talked to her?
I've spoken to her. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. And Ellen, she's a Kiwi photographer as well. She's an outdoor landscape photographer. Ellen Cayford.
Okay, no, haven't spoken to her yet, so
would recommend. She is amazing and such a lovely human. We met at the NFT gallery in Christchurch. I would 100% recommend her. She's the one that I talk to doing workshops with.
Nice.
So
yep.
Would recommend.
All right. She's on the list.
Yeah, nice.
All right. Well, I've got one more question, and for many people, it's the most important one that I ask. Do you like pineapple on pizza?
Oh my God, no. No, do you?
I'm ambivalent. If it's there, I'll eat it. If it's not there, I don't order it. But
Yep. There's something about cooked pineapple, cooked fruit for me. I'm not a big fan.
Really?
Yeah.
I love a bit of grilled pineapple on a burger. The Aussie Works burger.
That's so Aussie, yeah. See, I love beetroot on burger. Yes, sign me up.
Not a big fan of tinned beetroot. but
Oh, really? Yeah, I love it.
it's okay on a burger because it
Yeah.
disguised by the egg and the bacon and
Yeah. Yeah, when
the
you can't even
pineapple
like
and
taste it
everything
anymore.
else.
I used to eat just beetroot sandwiches when I was a kid.
Oh wow.
Yeah. But yeah, pineapple on pizza, that's a no for me.
That's a big no. All right. Well, I'll
Yeah.
put you in the no column. I
In the
still
no.
haven't. I've been doing this for a bit over a year, and I still haven't toted up what the numbers are. But I
Yeah,
think,
you need to do a tally.
yeah, I think it's roughly 50-50.
I would say, isn't it weird? It's just split down the middle. You need to be, the next question needs to be, do you like coriander?
Yeah. Oh, I quite like coriander personally.
I love it. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm a definite fan of Indian food and Thai food, and the more coriander, the better.
I agree. Yep. Shove it
My
all
wife
in.
hates it.
Oh no. You need to cook two separate dishes.
Well, I just put the coriander on the side, and
Oh, smart.
or I just sneak it into the cooking.
Yeah, just don't say anything.
That's
Out
it.
of sight, out of mind, right?
That's right. If you can't see it, you can't taste it.
Yeah, exactly. And she's like, do something different. You're like, no, it's the same as always.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you very much for taking the time out to talk to me today, Krista. It's been wonderful, hearing your story and getting to know you a bit better. Where can people find your work?
People can find my work on my website, kristamay.photography, or on my Instagram, Krista May Photography. And that's where I guess my main two portfolios are.
Fantastic. I'll put links up in the show notes for you as well.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a blast, and I appreciate you asking me to come on this call as well.
Oh, thanks very much for agreeing to be here.
No, it's been amazing. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Thanks again for listening to Landscape Photography World. I hope you enjoyed the show, and keep listening because I'll be joined by some great guests in upcoming episodes. You can find my work in this podcast at grantswinburnphotography.com. I'm also on Vero, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. I'm Grant Swinburne. Hope to see you out shooting soon.